Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Thursday. It is September 1st. This will be our chart lesson for the day. We're starting a new month. August is gone. It's in the trading books, so to speak. So hopefully yours was a successful August, and if it's not, continue to work on it, and maybe September will be your month. But anyway, somebody made a comment yesterday that the last couple of chart lessons had been really good. It was nice to see some more teaching, but we finally had some movement and some stuff to talk about and some stuff to teach. So, yeah, the volatility's back. We got a lot of movement. This was a really good trading day. It's all downhill here, and then it's all uphill. And it's just really what's really odd here is that with all this movement, we closed yesterday somewhere right in here, 2170 and a quarter, and today we closed 2167. So 2.5 point difference with all that movement. This market, they just can't, it just can't really. It's really been stuck in this area for a long, long time. But we don't mind that as long as we get movement like this, because all we need is for it to move. Um, so pretty interesting day. Uh, Again, there's a strong two-tiered channel here. It didn't really overshoot. At least I didn't think it did. I think this is two-tiered. But maybe this is an overshoot and we just reversed, because generally on a trend this strong, when you get a trend line break, generally you'll get a retest. So I'm really surprised we didn't. Prices tried to go back and retest, but then we had a pretty strong two-tiered channel working up. So it's up in the air whether this was the channel, and we just really overshot it that hard. There was some news around 9 o'clock that maybe drove it lower. So I don't know. It's hard to say. But anyway, we will we'll assume it's a two-tiered channel, and it just was overdone and reversed because you can see how hard this thing. You can see it was really holding down that line really well, and it looked like it was just a single channel here. But when we overshot, you take that measured move and move it down, then really it's probably going to be your next swing or something. And so you should have been prepared for this to bounce exactly where it bounced if you found the original channel. And actually, I take that back. You wouldn't know exactly the price it's going to bounce, but you know when it gets to this line and touches it, soon thereafter it's going to bounce. So that's the way I should have described that, I guess. But yeah, the volatility's coming back. I've been sticking to this 1500 tick chart, but probably next week when I come back, I'll probably open back up to 2000. If it continues like this, probably go back to it. So there really wasn't a whole lot of difference between 1500 and 2000, but it was slightly different. We were getting a few more trades by going to 1500 when it was really, really slow. But this is some pretty good movement, so we'll consider it. Once things kind of get back to normal, we'll go back. But I'm going to back out here and talk about the trades. But this trend line was pretty obvious right here. Uh, you should have had this one. And even if you didn't, early on, the short term channels were working out pretty well, relatively well. So, anyway, let's talk about the trades. First trade I saw was right at just after when I came in at 7 o'clock hour. We really were just kind of shooting sideways here, and we did that we were in that little range for a couple of hours there, so nothing going on. That's as flat, and that's as bad as it gets right there, because you can't trade that at all. But you should notice that there's a little trading range right there. And so this was your first possibility. This is a breakout pullback short, and you're looking for a retest of the low, and probably a retest of the overnight low. Um, there's actually another shorter term trend line in here too, right through here, and that's your break of it, and then your break of this one. And I got this line by drawing it off the lows and dragging it up. So it's a close outside, but this is a breakout pullback short. Notice how we broke below, pulled back, tested it, turned down, and you're looking for a retest of the low and maybe a run all the way down to here. So, but because it didn't break higher, it's really hard to make this one red. It's right on the borderline, uh, but it could have broken here and turned and went back up. Of course, it didn't break higher; it broke lower. But that's a breakout pullback short, and you're looking for a retest of those lows, like I said. And if you want to measure this first leg down, and then you're looking for something similar to that, and you see we got real close to that before it bounced. So we actually went a tick or so further. But this was a pretty good trade, but you got to make that one green because it's not a perfect setup. But if you see what's going, if it would have broke higher and then turned down, I'd liked it better. And if you had a little more room before this bounce here, I would have liked it better. But it turns out to be a pretty good trade. Pulls back again, and really, to be perfectly honest, this is a failed second entry long. So and you're still, but you've already had your break in a new low, so you could probably argue if it had gone sideways there, if you'd got a nice bearish bar like this right up here and it broke below, I probably would have given that at least a green, maybe made it red. But it went sideways, and so you're going short out of congestion there. And this is a nice bearish bar, but it's right there at that low, and we've already had a close outside and a big move down. Although there is a good chance we're going to test these lows, but I just don't think it's worth it, so I didn't mark it. And then of course we bounce and we're going up, but you never really get a signal here to enter this one till here, and it's so close to this high that I just don't think it's worth risking. It's right into to that resistance. I don't have the line there, but there's resistance right across there, you can see, and it's right into that. So I mean, you could look at that like a little breakout pullback long, and it does bounce off the trend line. It's not a failed second entry short though. We never got an earlier break, so you could probably argue for that one green, but I think you're better off to wait because this is looking like a trend line here, and we're probably headed back to it. So you definitely don't want to be going short in there because this one's played out, and now we got one working up that has to play out. So, but when it closes outside here, pushes to a new high, and turns down right off that possible trend line, real small bar, low risk. I like going short there. This one's close to being green but it's just such a low risk that I think it's worth taking for it to at least come back to the EMA. But notice you get a first entry long, pull back, a second entry long, it fails. And this is like a repeat pattern almost of here. It kind of breaks out, pulls back. I like going short right there on a break below that, and off it goes. And this turns out to be a pretty good move. You would have had a runner here. And so that's a nice move right there. And then it just kind of finds some support and goes sideways. It's done this the last couple of mornings. So if you didn't recognize the bigger channel, or you didn't have your bigger channel right, you could get thrown off here. But really, we're just going up and down, up and down, up and down. You get chopped up in this right here. Notice this move up here. But you really need to wait on a second entry, then you make another low, and then you're right into that low. So you never get a short, and you really don't want to go long yet until you get something confirmed to the upside. And really, this is just congestion. This is just a range, and it's probably clear if you put your lines on there. I always tell people, make sure you put your lines on here, because till you get trained to seeing this stuff, I mean, I can spot it pretty easy, but if you're not used to seeing it, it's a little bit harder. And then finally you get a breakout pullback long, and you do get there's actually a failed second entry short right there, but I wouldn't take that one. But when you get this breakout pullback long, if you've got enough room to get out before getting back up here, maybe. So that's why I made it green. But honestly, I think you're better off just to wait till we get to the other side. And I definitely wouldn't be buying over here, but by the time we get over here, it's looking flat. So that probably means we're headed back to the trend line, because look what's happened. You come off the high side, or do you go to the low side? When you hit the low side, you turn. Where do you go? Back to the high side. When you come off the high side, where do you go? Back down to the low side. Once you get to the low side, where do you go? You go back to the high side, back to the low side, and then you're expecting to go back to the high side here. But of course, you got another channel in here, and maybe we're going to make another run down like we did here. So we'll talk about that when we get to it. So really, you're looking for it to come back up here. So there's some reasons to consider taking that long, but I don't recommend, when you've got that clear of a downtrend, you don't want to be counter trend trading. So, um, but we got to close outside this thing way down here, but maybe the trend doesn't start till there. So it tends to fit pretty well the way I have it. I like it that way. This is a turn down right off the trend line, fairly bearish bar, but I think you're better off to wait on another entry, a little better entry, and then it pushes back inside, pulls back, gives you that big bearish bar. I like that when you got enough room to get out before getting back down to those lows, and then it actually just keeps going. So you would have had a runner on this one again, and that's a nice move. And of course, where does it bounce again? Right at the low of the channel where you would expect it to, and it's working up. And notice you got those first two swings, and this just reconfirms that. Big bearish bar. I wouldn't go short below that one. It's pretty low risk, but I'd wait on this one. And even then, I'd let it break lower, and I'd try to get in with a limit order a tick or so back. You're not going to get too far back because of the trend line unless it breaks it. And then if it breaks it, you're probably not going to be interested anyway. So this one's really could be borderline green. The reason I left it red is that notice this low. This was the low. We tested it once. We tested it twice. So it's a double test. It's a double top. And you got a big bearish bar here in a downtrend. And so for that reason, it was real close. So I like it red just because this is such a strong downtrend. And plus that confirms that trend line. And at first I thought this was might be the channel right here and that this could be an overshoot. But when this held and gave you that big bearish bar, you got to figure that, hey, this is probably not an overshoot. We're probably going lower. But you got to get through this line first, and notice it bounces again. And it does turn down again right there, but it's right into that line, and we've touched it twice. There's kind of a repeat pattern here, so that was another reason I like this one to push down like this again, maybe before it bounced. But this thing, the bottom falls out of it. So you would have had a runner here, and you could ride that all the way down. But once it starts heading down like this, you're looking for, it should be fairly easy to find a possible reversal spot by taking this line, same line you had here and here, and dragging it down an equal distance. So in other words, the distance between here and here, you just get an equal distance, and that's where it should bounce. And look at that, like clockwork. And another trader sent me his chart. We talk about these gaps. Notice that gap right there. That's what led me to believe that there was a line there when I drew it there. That's why I didn't have it coming right across here or from these. That gap's telling you something right there. And another trader sent me his chart. He had a gap right in here on his midline. He had the same channel. And even though I didn't have it, he did. I don't know if he has that one, and I don't know. But I didn't have the one he had. But they still got us to the same spot. So I'm telling you, those gaps are important. And people ask me all the time, what gap? What gap? Notice how that one closed on its high, and the next bar opens on its low, and there's no overlap. Look like there's overlap between those two bars. There's no overlap right there either. That's a strong trend up through there. But notice how most bars, there's some overlap on every bar. They don't see this one closed on its low and opened on its high, but it backed up and filled that gap. And that's generally what you'll see. But when you see those gaps like that, they're telling you something. So watch for them. There could be a bigger pattern, something going on right here on this gap as well. But those gaps tell you something. So that helped him find his midline. It helped me find my midline. So anyway, we bounced down here. This is really, really tempting. Actually, not here. It's still tempting to kind of go long here because you know you're coming off the low side, but look how flat it got with all those dojis in there. Um, there's actually a reversal pattern right there, and you do have a lot of room back to the EMA, but you don't have much back to the trend line. So, of course, you get a nice bearish bar here, but I wouldn't take that one coming off this low side. I'd wait on a better entry. Um, and we the trend line just continues to hold. We finally get a close outside, a move to a new high. And where does it turn down? Right off the midline. Nice bearish bar. So that's where you want to go short again. And this is another one. Boom, off it goes. You would have had another runner there. And then notice this one, it bounces early here. It doesn't get down to the trend line. So, and we push right back into the upper half. When that happens, I would look for a break over here. So if you got a little setup or something over here, just be real careful of it unless you know everything's in place. Because the odds are, the fact that we came up short, I mean, we'll overshoot it on this side. We overshot it all right. I mean, we just kept going, so it didn't really matter, and there's really no setup there. But just for future reference, remember that. Um, this is the one that's really tempting to go long right here. And if you're willing to be super aggressive, I'd say take it. But you got to be really careful in a strong downtrend like this because we could have pushed on down one more time. But that's really tempting right there. I'm just going to tell you. Um, after that, you're right in here in the EMA and below that midline, and so pulls back right here. That one's rather tempting too, but you got this double top across here, and you've already kind of had a close outside that trend line and a new high. So I think you're pressing it going long right there into that double top. It would have worked, but you don't know that ahead of time, so you got to follow the rules, and I don't think that's worth taking. Then you make a high, come back. This one, you could almost argue to go short there, and you really could maybe even argue for that one to be green, but look how flat it is, double top, double bottom, there's a doji or two in there. That's congestion. So this is a little breakout pullback short, but I don't like that bar. And by the time you get this one, you've already got a close outside and a new low. This one would have worked here, but I think you're better off to skip that one. And then, of course, you make a higher low right off that midline. And so your guess is you're probably headed back up here. You really could argue for this one to be green as well, because now we're back and forth above the EMA, and this is it's a second entry long. It's not a great one. There's really two legs here as well, but it never broke higher. So you might could argue for that one to be green right there. But I think you're better to wait for the reversal pattern. And notice it comes here. It pushes right through, pulls back, tests it once, tests it twice. You still got a lot of room before that high. I like that one. And you don't know that it's going to shoot off like that. But if you caught this one, you can ride this all the way up. And as strong as that trend is, you don't really get another good opportunity to enter until maybe here. And by that time, you've gone a long way. However, if you realize that this looks like a channel and you make your measured move up here, and actually you would have been going right back up to this next swing right there. You notice that. That might have given you enough reason to stay in it, but we've been away from the EMA a long time. But that's a strong move. I'm telling you, that's a really strong move. And the only way to get in one of those is just find the strong bar off the trend line and take it. There's been no close outside really yet, so there's a reason to consider that one. If there'd been a little more room before that high, I'd probably made it blue. But I think it's a little risky. And then, of course, it turns down, and you could almost make the argument to go short right there. But that's the first close. You might could say that one closed outside, but it's so close I wouldn't trust it. So then it comes back, got this trend line working down through here. You do get a little close outside, but again, that's kind of iffy. If it's closed outside, it does push to a new low and then go higher. Um, and you could really kind of call that a second entry, but that's just not a good enough signal bar. And by the time you get this one, I'm going to be a little bit leery of it. And notice how it doesn't get back there. And then you get your second leg down. Here comes your second leg. And you get your second entry right here when it breaks above. Actually, when it broke above there, but that bar is completely bearish, so you don't really want to take that one. And then this one's just not bullish enough. It's too bearish. So if this would have been a more bullish setup, I'd like going long right there, trying to get the retest of the high on this one. But we can't get up there. We just make a double top. And you get a little small bar here. That's a double test of these highs across here. And that little small bar. I like that one for a short. Plus, we just came off the eye of a two-tiered channel, so we're probably going to the other side. It pulls back and tests it again, but you don't get a good enough setup here. But when it comes back a second time and you get that big bearish bar, go short right there, because that's a double test of this, basically a double top. So that's a quadruple top there and a big bearish bar. And there's plenty of room to get out before getting back down to this level. We're really going sideways here. And look at the bottom fall of that thing. I mean, you're just hoping to get back to here, but look at it go. And so a runner, you could have ridden it all the way. I really thought we were coming all the way back to the trend line, but we don't get back to the trend line until after the 2 o'clock. But there's one other long here. This is going sideways, so this is a failed break lower. You don't really get a good setup off the low on the failed break. There's nothing there I like, and then this is too close to the EMA. But look what happens. It pushes on through, pulls back, gives you a failed second entry short. Just go long right there. And you're just looking for it to come to the other side. Maybe it keeps going, but it doesn't. It pushes straight back down and touches the other side. So I like that trade right there. There's actually a trend line right through there. You can see there, and that's the first close. So you're looking for it to push back up, make a new high, and probably test this high and get back in the range. And it did get back in there for a minute before the bottom fell out of it. Once again, but what prices we're trying to do was go from the high side to the low side. So you have to understand where prices they're trying to go. From here, they're trying to get up here. It took no time at all, really. That was a really good move. But from here, they should try to come back down to here. Because the market had gotten kind of bullish, it couldn't really sell off. It kind of had to go more sideways than it did down. But it still got down there, and then it bounced. And where did it go? It headed back up to the other side. And, sometimes it'll turn off the midline. Sometimes it'll go on through. So that's why it's key to know the bigger picture and know what prices are trying to do. And if you understand that, then you're probably a little less hesitant to get long in here without a trap or a reversal pattern or something, that makes it worthwhile. So once again, if you just look what's happening, you come off the high side of your trend line down to the low trend line, or the trend channel line as we call it. Then it bounces, and where does it go? To the upper side. Then from there, where does it go? To the lower side. From the lower side, where does it go? Back to the higher side. Back to the lower side. Here, you think it's going back, but it turns out we either got an overshoot or it's two-tiered, and so when we're heading down, but then you're just looking for it to go, find where this line goes, equal distance, and where does it bounce? Right there. Comes back. Where does it turn down? Off the midline or the previous trend channel line, whichever it is. Then where does it go from there? It should be trying to go the other side. Doesn't quite make it, and then it bounces. So once it starts heading up, where is it probably going? To here. This thing just rockets. This might have just been a channel right here with an overshoot and a reversal. I really thought it was two-tiered, but it's hard to say because we only overshot it one time, and it was a huge overshoot, and then we just reversed and never came back. And then you had a two-tiered channel working up. So, and there's also, there's probably a trend line right across there as well. think you were better off to play it flat. And you can see there it is on the lower side, and we just kind of overshot it, and then it reversed again. So that might have led you to take this short right here, but again, it's so close to these lows. But definitely, because that would have been the confirmation of that trend line. But when it came back, this was still the better trade right here. I mean, you really could have taken all three of those, but the way it acted, I wouldn't have taken that one in the middle right there. Let me back out. You probably can't see that. But you see, that's just not a very bearish signal bar and not much room back to these lows. So, I mean, if you took it, it worked. I mean, you could have taken any three of those really, but I don't recommend that one. Once it didn't do exactly what you thought here, which it should have gone all the way down, um, the better trade would have been to wait on this one with a good signal bar and another lower high there again too. So, and a double test of a double top. So I hope that makes sense. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. This is going to do it for the week. No chart lesson tomorrow. Remember, I'm going on vacation. I'm going on a golf trip this time. I'll be gone all next week. My ability to check email will be limited. I'll probably check it once in the evening each day if I have time. I hope to have time to at least test it, check it. I probably won't answer any questions on trades or anything like that. I'll only answer emergency type emails if somebody has an emergency need. So if you would, hold your questions. And I'll be back in a week, the following Monday. So the week of the 5th through 9th, I'll be gone. I don't come back till that weekend. So, but I'll be back in the office Monday for a normal day. So I won't be back to the 12th. Hope y'all have a great week next week. Those of you that will still be around trading, I'm guessing I still hadn't looked to see what today. I think the holiday is going to be Monday, but I'm going to check it real quick. Hold on. I'm just going to pause it. So, yeah, it looks like tomorrow's a regular trading day, and then the holiday will be on Monday with the Labor Day holiday, and the market will close at noon Central Time, my time. So those days usually aren't worth trading. So I wouldn't recommend trying to trade them. You might sim trade it, but I wouldn't trade it live. So it doesn't mean that you couldn't have some movement on one of those days, but generally, you'll see something like this and you'll get stuck in there and it'll close and you don't get a chance to get out without taking a loss. So I recommend you not trade those days. Take it off. You need a break from trading anyway. If you don't get a chance to trade live much, nothing wrong with sim trading it or whatever. So if you don't get a chance to, I guess what I meant to say is if normally during the day you can't sit in front of the screen and you're off on Labor Day and you want a chance, then yeah, maybe you want to sim, get on the sim, play around, but you're not going to see normal price movements most likely. So, but anyway, that's going to do it for this week. And again, nothing next week. I'll be on vacation. So I'll see you when I get back. Have a great week next week. And I'll think about you when I'm on the golf course. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. And we'll see you next time.